A woman walked away from a plane crash and the worst burns on her body weren't from the fire. Her polyester blouse had melted into the skin of her arms just from the friction of going down the evacuation slide. That's an extreme case, and you're probably never going to be in a plane crash. But what you wear to the airport affects everything from whether you develop a dangerous blood clot on a long flight, to whether you can keep your balance at security, to whether you spend your whole vacation limping around in hotel slippers because your feet gave out on day one. And some of the worst choices, they're things you've probably worn a dozen times without thinking twice. Let's start with the one that can actually hurt you from the inside. Tight jeans and restrictive pants seem like a perfectly normal choice for flying. They look neat, they're practical, and you've probably worn them on every flight for the last 30 years. But something happens inside your body when you're squeezed into a narrow seat at 35,000 feet for hours at a time. Your blood flow slows, the cabin pressure makes it worse, and when blood pools in your legs without circulating properly, it can form a clot. That's called deep vein thrombosis, and if that clot breaks loose and travels to your lungs, you're dealing with a pulmonary embolism. People die from this every year. Now, this risk exists for everyone, but as we get older, our circulation naturally slows. Add diabetes, heart conditions, varicose veins, or any previous clot history to the mix, and you've dramatically raised the stakes. Tight clothing around your waist, thighs, and calves acts like a tourniquet on a system that's already working harder than it used to. I used to wear jeans on every flight. Then a nurse friend explained that the combination of tight denim, cabin pressure, and sitting still was basically a recipe for leg trouble, especially for anyone over 50. Switch to stretchy travel pants and haven't gone back. No more swollen ankles, no more aching calves after landing. There's another problem with restrictive pants that hits mid-flight too. When you eat that airport meal or that bag of salty pretzels, your body retains water, your belly bloats, and suddenly those jeans that fit fine at 6 in the morning feel like they're cutting off your circulation, which is exactly what they're doing. So wear pants with an elastic or stretchy waistband instead, something that can expand with you throughout the day. Straight leg or slightly fitted ankles work well because they won't snag on anything, but the fabric needs at least 2 inches of give. Dark colors hide spills. Travel leggings, joggers with a drawstring, stretchy dress pants, or even those casual work pants with a bit of flex in the fabric all work beautifully. After back surgery, a friend of mine switched to lightweight wool dress pants with suspenders instead of a belt, and he says it's the most comfortable he's ever been on a plane. Before you pack them, put them on at home. Raise your arms like you're standing in a body scanner, bend over, then sit down for a while after eating. If they still feel good after all that, you've got your travel pants. Now, since we're talking about blood clots, let's talk about something that actually prevents them. Compression socks are one of the best things any traveler over 60 can put on before a flight, and the people who use them never shut up about them. There's a reason for that. These socks apply graduated pressure to your lower legs, strongest at the ankle and loosening as they go up. That pressure helps push blood back toward your heart instead of letting it pool in your feet and calves. Less pooling means less swelling, less fatigue, and a significantly lower chance of a clot forming. I tested this on a cross-country flight, New York to Los Angeles. Without compression socks, I'd usually land with puffy ankles and legs that ached for hours. With them, I stepped off the plane feeling like I'd barely been sitting. The difference was dramatic enough that I've worn them on every flight since. Flight attendants have known about this for years. They're on their feet in a pressurized cabin for hours, and plenty of them won't work a flight without compression socks on. But a nurse friend made an important point about timing. You need to put them on first thing in the morning, before you've been up walking around. If you've been on your feet all day and your blood has already started pooling in your lower legs, slipping on compression socks in the evening just traps everything in place. That can actually make swelling worse instead of better. So for red-eye flights or late departures, put them on that morning and wear them all day. And forget those ugly beige medical stockings from 20 years ago. Modern compression socks come in regular colors and patterns, moisture-wicking fabrics, and styles that look like normal socks. Nobody on the plane will know you're wearing them. Your legs at landing will know the difference, though. For anything over 2 hours in the air, and especially for international flights, these are worth every penny. But even the right pants and socks won't matter much if your feet are falling apart by the time you board. Flip-flops and sandals seem logical when you're headed somewhere warm. Easy to slip off, they breathe well, lightweight to pack, but for anyone over 60, they create problems at every stage of the trip. Start with your feet themselves. Flip-flops have zero arch support and zero ankle stability. After walking through a sprawling terminal, standing in security lines, navigating jet bridges, and hauling your carry-on, your feet are going to ache in ways they wouldn't in proper shoes. If you've got plantar fasciitis, arthritis, or just the general wear from decades of use, flip-flops will make all of it worse. I watched a group mate hobble through the last 3 days of a European vacation because she'd worn sandals through the airport, and her feet never recovered from those hard terminal floors. Then there's balance. Flip-flops slip on escalators, moving walkways, and wet floors. For anyone with even minor balance concerns, and that includes a lot of us as we get older, an unsecured shoe on a moving surface is a fall waiting to happen. The floors themselves are a problem too, especially in open-toed shoes. Airport floors carry bacteria levels higher than the average toilet seat, and that's on a dry day. Add rain or snow tracked in from the outside, and you're walking through a film of grime that you really don't want on bare skin. MRSA and staph infections aren't theoretical risks, they're documented ones. TSA recently dropped the shoes-off requirement for domestic U.S. flights, which is a welcome change. But if you trigger the scanner, need additional screening, or you're flying internationally, those shoes might still need to come off, and then your bare feet are on that floor. High heels create a different set of problems. They're unstable on airport surfaces, they can actually puncture emergency evacuation slides, and making a tight connection in heels across a long concourse is asking for a twisted ankle or worse. Complicated boots with lots of laces are a security headache too, trying to untie and retie them while keeping track of your bags, your jacket, and your laptop, all while balancing on one foot. One stumble and you're on the ground. In your 70s, that's not an embarrassment, that's a potential injury. What actually works is a slip-on shoe with genuine arch support, something sturdy enough to walk miles in if your connection gets delayed, but easy enough to get on and off without bending over or fighting with laces. Hands-free slip-in shoes have become incredibly popular with older travelers for exactly this reason. You step in, your heel drops, and you're walking. No reaching down, no losing your balance. If you're willing to invest in one good pair, look at shoes with serious cushioning and traction. Hoka gets mentioned constantly by travelers who walk 20,000 steps a day through European cities without foot pain. They're not cheap, but they earn their price by the second day of any trip. Whatever you pick, break them in before you leave. Wear them around the house for a week. Brand new shoes, no matter how comfortable they feel at the store, can give you blisters by the time you land. And that's how you end up buying emergency shoes at your destination and limping through your vacation.
Now let's talk about something everyone ignores until they're trapped in an airplane bathroom. Jumpsuits, rompers, and one-piece outfits look great and pack efficiently. In an airplane lavatory, they're a nightmare. Those bathrooms are about 24 square feet, barely enough room to turn around. If you're wearing a jumpsuit, you basically have to undress from the waist up just to use the toilet. You're holding fabric away from surfaces you absolutely do not want to touch, all while balancing in a tiny box that's bouncing with turbulence. For anyone with limited mobility or balance concerns, this goes from inconvenient to genuinely unsafe. I've talked to travelers who wore jumpsuits and ended up avoiding the bathroom entirely rather than deal with the logistics. On a 2-hour flight, that's uncomfortable. On anything longer, it's a health risk, especially if you're on medications that require proper hydration. Wide-leg pants and flowy skirts have similar issues. They drag on bathroom floors that see hundreds of passengers a day. They catch on escalators, and they restrict the freedom of movement you need if you're getting up to walk the aisle and keep your blood flowing. Wear separates, a top and a bottom that work independently. You can change your shirt without removing your pants. You can use the bathroom without a wardrobe change. On a long travel day, that convenience adds up fast. Now, here's something that doesn't get discussed enough but matters enormously for older travelers. Planes are cold. Cabin temperature typically runs somewhere between 65 and 70 degrees, but it can feel much colder depending on your seat. Those overhead vents blow directly on you. The fuselage's walls radiate cold, especially near windows. And as we get older, we lose body heat faster and feel the chill more quickly. Wearing shorts on a plane might seem reasonable if you're headed somewhere warm, but you'll spend hours in a cold, pressurized metal tube first. Bare legs against those seats, which are rarely as clean as they look, get cold fast. And the temperature swings through a travel day are wild. Comfortable at the gate, freezing on the plane, sweating at your destination. Layering handles all of it. Start with a modest base layer underneath, a proper t-shirt or long-sleeve top that you'd feel comfortable in when your jacket comes off at security, because it will come off, and if what's underneath is a thin camisole or tank top, you're standing in a crowded checkpoint feeling exposed while the line moves slowly. Over that, a zip-up jacket or hoodie with a hood. The zip lets you adjust constantly. The hood doubles as warmth, privacy when you want to sleep, and a barrier between your head and that seat back that hundreds of other heads have leaned against. And here's a trick that makes security faster. Before you reach the checkpoint, put your phone, keys, wallet, and earbuds into your jacket pockets. Then put the whole jacket in the bin. Everything stays together, hidden, and accounted for. It's faster than emptying pants pockets one by one while the line watches. Throw in a large scarf or lightweight travel blanket, something that packs small but earns its weight in comfort. Blanket when it's cold, pillow when it's rolled up, barrier between you and a questionable seat. Some travelers carry oversized alpaca wool scarves that look stylish in an airport but work like a full blanket on the plane. What you wear also determines how long you spend in the security line and whether you become a target outside of it. Metal triggers the scanner, everyone knows that. But the decorative studs on your jeans, the metallic thread woven into that winter sweater, the sequins on a sweatshirt you've worn dozens of times without thinking about, those can flag you too. That cute sweater with the sparkly design that's never caused problems before, at airport security, it's a secondary screening waiting to happen. Chunky metal jewelry, heavy chains, and big decorative buckles create the same issue. I've watched someone hold up the security line for 15 minutes trying to get a screw-on bracelet off her wrist. The agents were frustrated and she was mortified. Everyone behind her was doing that slow shuffle of impatience. The whole situation was completely avoidable. If it's hard to take off quickly, leave it at home or pack it in your carry-on. A wedding ring and basic earrings won't cause problems. Statement necklaces and heavy bangles will. And there's another reason to dress down. Flashy designer logos and obvious luxury accessories make you a target for pickpockets, and older travelers get targeted more often because they're seen as carrying valuables and being easier to distract. Flight attendants have mentioned they see it too. Passengers in obviously expensive outfits get approached more aggressively for upgrade pitches and add-on sales. You don't need to look like you're going to a job interview, but you don't need to advertise that you're worth pickpocketing. Dark neutral colors, minimal visible branding, you'll blend in, move through the airport faster, and attract less of the wrong kind of attention. If you have a medical device, implant, or mobility aid, the security process needs a little more thought. Pacemakers, implanted defibrillators, insulin pumps, glucose monitors, cochlear implants, hearing aids, all of these will show up on the body scanner, and that's fine. You do not have to remove any of them. Nobody can ask you to take off a hearing aid or disconnect an insulin pump to go through security. If anyone suggests otherwise, ask for a supervisor. Mobility aids go through separately. Your cane or walker goes through the X-ray while you go through the body scanner or receive a pat-down. Wheelchairs get screened on their own. Prosthetics stay on. The thing that actually speeds this up is communication. If you've got an artificial hip, a knee replacement, or any internal hardware, mention it before you step into the scanner. A quick heads up turns what could be a confusing alarm into a routine wave-through. My neighbor has had a hip replacement for years and says it takes about 10 seconds when he mentions it up front versus 5 minutes of confusion when he doesn't. For insulin pumps specifically, some travelers have been pressured to send them through the X-ray or body scanner even though the manufacturer says not to. Know your device's guidelines. You can always request a manual inspection instead, and TSA is required to accommodate that. If you have a condition that affects how a pat-down should go, a recent surgery, a tender joint, chronic pain, tell the officer before they start. They can and will adjust. European airports tend to be less accommodating about this and rougher in general, so if you're flying internationally, speaking up early matters even more. TSA runs a service called TSA Cares for travelers who need extra support at the checkpoint. Call them at least 72 hours before your flight to ask questions, arrange assistance, or request a support specialist. It's free and it exists specifically for situations like these. Bring documentation for your devices if you have it. A doctor's note or a device card can cut through questions before they start, even if you don't technically need them.
Now back to that woman from the beginning whose blouse melted. Synthetic fabrics like polyester and nylon aren't just less comfortable in the dry, recycled cabin air. In the rare event of an emergency, they become dangerous. These materials melt when exposed to high heat or friction. The evacuation slide generates friction. A cabin fire generates heat. And melted fabric fused to skin is a burn that's far worse than what the fire itself would have done. There's a reason the military trains its people to wear natural fibers in any situation where fire is a possibility. Cotton burns away cleanly. Polyester melts into you. The FAA's own evacuation tests have confirmed this. Passengers in synthetic fabrics on slides sustained friction burns that passengers in natural fibers didn't. The odds of needing to evacuate a plane are extremely low. But here's what makes this an easy choice. Natural fabrics are also more comfortable for flying in every other way. Cotton, bamboo, and merino wool breathe better, regulate temperature better, resist odors, and don't wrinkle nearly as much as synthetics. Merino wool in particular has become a favorite of experienced travelers because it stays warm when the cabin is cold, stays cool when you're rushing through the terminal, and doesn't smell after 12 hours in the same seat. Bamboo blends are softer and lighter if wool isn't your thing. You're choosing between a fabric that's worse in comfort, worse in temperature, worse in odor, and melts into your skin in an emergency versus fabrics that are better in every category and also happen to be safer. That's not really a choice at all. Speaking of creating problems at security, let's talk about cargo pants and those multi-pocket travel vests. In theory, they're brilliant. All those pockets mean you can carry everything you need without a bag. In practice, they're a nightmare at the checkpoint. Every pocket needs emptying before the scanner, and the pockets you forgot about, those are the ones that get you pulled aside. I watched a guy spend 10 minutes in secondary screening because the scanner flagged an old receipt and some loose change crumpled up in the side pocket he didn't even know was there. What should have taken 30 seconds turned into an ordeal with his bag sitting unattended on the belt and the line behind him getting longer. If you've ever tried to empty 14 pockets in a hurry while keeping track of everything you own, you understand the problem. The more pockets you have, the more likely something gets left behind on the other side. Keep it to 2 pockets, maybe 4. Anything more and you're creating work for yourself. A better approach is putting all your small loose items, coins, keys, chapstick, whatever, into a clear zip bag before you reach the checkpoint. Everything goes in the bin together, nothing rolls away. One more thing that affects everyone around you. Strong perfumes and colognes are a genuine problem on planes. The air in the cabin gets recycled every 2 to 3 minutes, which sounds like a lot of fresh air until you realize that means whatever scent you're wearing is constantly circulating through a sealed metal tube packed with people. For passengers with asthma, allergies, migraines, or any kind of respiratory sensitivity, and there are more of them than you'd expect, a heavy scent can turn a 5-hour flight into genuine suffering. There have been cases where passengers had to be moved or removed from flights entirely because someone's cologne made it impossible for nearby passengers to breathe. Skip fragrance on travel days entirely, or go very light. You can always apply it after you land. Same goes for heavy makeup in that cabin air. Humidity at cruising altitude sits around 10 to 20%, drier than most deserts. Thick foundation cracks, flakes, and there's no good way to fix it mid-flight. Light moisturizer with SPF makes more sense for the flight since UV exposure is actually higher at altitude near the windows, and you can do your full routine after landing. So let's bring it all together. Wear stretchy, comfortable pants that won't restrict your circulation. Put on compression socks first thing in the morning before any long flight. Choose supportive slip-on shoes you've already broken in. Skip one-piece outfits unless you want to perform yoga in a bathroom the size of a phone booth. Layer up with a zip-up jacket and something that can double as a blanket because that cabin is going to be cold. Keep the metal minimal, know your rights with medical devices, and don't let anyone pressure you into removing something essential. Stick with natural fabrics that breathe, regulate temperature, and won't melt in an emergency. Leave the flashy luxury items at home and skip the perfume.
None of this takes more than 5 minutes of thought before you get dressed, but it's the difference between arriving at your destination feeling human and arriving exhausted, achy, swollen, and miserable. That's worth planning for. If this helped, subscribe for more travel tips that actually make your trips easier. And if you want to know exactly what to pack in your carry-on so you're ready for anything, that video is on screen now.